Hey everyone, this is Brooks Kubik and John Wood, and we're here with another episode of Dinosaur Radio. We're recording this in late November 2024, and as you will see, because it's holiday season and travel season, that's affected what we're going to be talking about today, or rather, it's influenced our choice of topics. John, you had mentioned that you're getting a lot of emails from people who are traveling, they're on the road, they want to keep training, or they think they probably should keep training as opposed to just blowing it off while they're, you know, off for the holidays, so to speak. And in that regard, you were mentioning that you had just been traveling and had had a fun and effective strength training workout in a hotel room. Tell us about that.
So my son is doing travel baseball, and the official season doesn't start until next spring. But in the lead up, they did a couple of tournaments in the fall, and one of the tournaments was in near the Toledo area. And just to save ourselves some driving, we got a hotel room for Saturday. We did Saturday. He had four games, and then two more games on Sunday. And so we got a hotel room that was fairly close to the facility where we did the games. And I had because of the traveling, we had also had some other things going on later in the week. I didn't get in a workout. I usually train on Thursdays, and I couldn't do it. It just didn't fit into the schedule on that particular time. And so I just said, well, I know we're going to have some downtime at the hotel on the night after the first day of the tournament. So I'll just do a workout then. It was literally, we were just killing time. We were just watching movies and that kind of thing. So I knew I was going to get in this workout later that night on that Saturday between the two days that we were at this tournament. And so I made plans to get in a workout then. I brought my training log, and then I did have equipment, quote unquote. I brought a hand gripper, and I brought some push-up handles. And then everything else that I did about 10 exercises, um, just some real basic stuff. Most of it required no equipment whatsoever. Those were the only exceptions. And then I got in a great workout, and JD, my son, did great at his tournament the next day, and everybody was happy.
What kind of hand gripper did you bring?
I think it was a number two, maybe. I don't remember offhand. I just did one set with each hand, and that's all I needed.
Okay, so what the captains of Crush.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, cool. So can you walk us through that workout in a little bit more detail?
I think that I brought some, as I mentioned, some push-up handles. I like push-up handles for there's different types usually, and you can usually get them at sporting goods store for a few dollars. Sometimes they're plastic or metal, which also the plastic ones are ideal because you can put them in your suitcase if you can take them on an airplane. I don't know, metal ones. The ones I had were metal, but I wasn't flying, so obviously it didn't make much difference. But I like these handles. It's less about the increased range of motion and more about a situation that I noticed, and this is actually one of the few things that has come from positive things that has come from regular viewing on YouTube, is that what I noticed, something that I do, and I wasn't even aware of it, but that most people do, is that when they do push-ups on the floor, the last few inches they just kind of slump.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just something that you do without even noticing it. And so when you have the push-up handles, as you do your rep and you're at the top of the movement and you lower yourself down, you don't have to lower yourself to the floor. You're still maintaining tension. And so it just makes a more effective movement overall. At least this is what I've found. Um, and so I think I didn't do just one set. I did kind of a ladder thing. I think I did 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, something like that. It was not, it was not the world record, but it certainly achieved what I was looking for, is that just to keep everything in a good state, until I could get back to my regular routine, which is kind of the goal with any traveling workout. It's just a lateral move just to get you to eventually when things start to settle down a little bit more. So, I think I did that. I did some body weight squats, maybe 50, um, and then the gripper somewhere in there, and then I actually did some neck work. I laid on the bed and did forward and back, and then I think maybe three or four different ab moves of various sorts. What I find is that most people really shortchange themselves in terms of the abdominal training. It's really easy to cheat and make you feel like you're doing something, and what you find is that the abs are, in many cases, extremely weak if you do it right. I mean, if you just a basic sit up, most people, if they don't flail their arms and if they do it right, they're not going to get that many. I mean, I think most people probably, when you're doing a legitimate sit up, most people probably get less than 10. Um, and to me, that indicates a weakness and something that should be worked on. So there's all kinds of options as far as working the abs. We won't go too far into it, but a couple examples. I mean, you've got your basic sit-ups, your crunches, you leg lifts of various sorts. Even a plank is a good movement. Um, I don't remember specifically what I did. I've got it all written down in my book, but I remember that was basically the model. It was doing some push-ups, doing some squats, some the hand gripper, and a little bit of neck work, and then through two or three or four ab movements, and then we called it a night. And it was a great workout, and I felt good about myself. I didn't, skip out, and it got me to where I wanted to go.
A lot of people come to a traveling or a vacation workout with the mindset of, if I can't do X, it's not even worth training. For example, if I can't do heavy squats, not worth training. Can't do heavy benches, not worth training. Can't do deadlifts, not worth training. Or whatever. Or they say, yeah, I can do a body weight workout, but I can't train my lower body heavy enough with body weight, can't train my back, can't train whatever. So I'm not going to do anything. And almost anything you suggest, they can come back with a, yeah, but blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to do anything. And I think that's not an ideal attitude, to put it mildly. And it's not what I would refer to as a dinosaur way of thinking or the dinosaur mentality. My thinking is always, any workout, no matter what it is, no matter where it is better than no workout.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's time to train, your job is to train, get it done wherever. And I've been consciously pushing that idea in my own training for years. And I've trained indoors, outdoors. I've gone to the high school sports field and worked out there. I've gone to different local parks and worked out there. I've gone to various beaches at Fort Worden State Park here in Port Townsend. I've worked out there. I've worked out with sandbags. I've worked out with rocks. I've worked out with logs. I've carried gymnastics rings with me and hung them from tree branches and used those for my workouts. I found things to grab onto for pull-ups. I found logs lying in the sand that I use as push-up boards. I just, whatever is around, I look at it and I think, I wonder if I could use that to do a different kind of push-up, or I wonder if I could use that to train my legs, or what would happen if I picked this up and did such and so with it. And I just have had many years now. We've been doing this about 5 years, many years of really great, fun, and effective workouts doing that sort of thing. I much prefer an approach where I say, I'm not going to focus on what I can't do, on what is not available. I'm going to focus on what I can do with what is available. And if you focus on that, you get incredible, really good positive workouts and really good positive benefits. Um, you also build, by doing that, you build more of that mental toughness that you and I often talk about. In that regard, someone someone who trained you for a while, I think one weekend, Carl Gotch had a great story about when he was a wrestler traveling the circuit in Europe and a workout he got in what was essentially a closet. Can you tell that story?
I forget the specific details when he told it, but there was a situation where he was traveling with a troupe of wrestlers, and whoever was making the living arrangements in the hotel they were staying at didn't like Carl for whatever reason. Um, Imagine that. He knew Carl liked to work out, and he pointedly gave Carl the smallest room, which, as it turned out, was little more than a closet. And it was a bed and maybe a sink and the door. There was not a lot of room in there, and whoever had this beef against Carl said, "Ha ha! I gave you the smallest room, so now you can't do your workout." And Carl said, "Well, guess what? All I did was take the bed and I tipped it up on end and I did my squats and my push-ups and whatever there. And so I got in my workout anyway." And when he told this, and this is more than 20 years ago now, I said, "Yeah, we're on the same wavelength here." So it was just the attitude. And I think anybody who's successful has that attitude that, yeah, it's not convenient. It might be tough. I might not feel like it. I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm going to figure it out. It's amazing to me. And I know you get emails about this. Well, I can't train because I'm not close to a gym. I don't have equipment. I don't have time. I don't have this. I don't have that. And in every single situation, every single one of them, I thought, well, if I was in that situation, I would just go to the beach. I would go to the local high school gym. I would do push-ups in a hotel room. I mean, the point is that's not going to stop me. So the people out there, I mean, it's funny because you thought all this training stuff comes down to the mental side of things. And it comes down to your attitude. And to me, it's like there's no reason if you're going to allow yourself to quit, to have an obstacle of that nature, then it's almost like saying go find something else to do because you're not made out, you're not right for this. The attitude that it's tough, but I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, the thing is that like the secret of life just in itself? Um, one of the things I've noticed, and you become introspective about your own training, and something that I've noticed many years ago is that you'll never regret the workouts that you do. It's only the ones that you miss. And even if you go out, you do a workout, it might not be great. You're not going to set any world records, but when it's done, you'll feel better about yourself and you'll be proud of yourself. And that's important. And so you'll think, hey, I didn't feel like doing it. I did it anyway. This is great. And there are some kind of rewards down to a neural transmitter level. I don't know if it's epinephrine or dopamine or the science of that is available out there, but the point is that your body has means of rewarding you, deep down inside at the most basic level, at a chemical level, because it knows that if this behavior, this attitude is important, we should keep doing this, and so that keeps you moving forward. So to me, it's all comes down to the attitude, and if you're the type of person that's going to let that stop you, then what else needs to be said?
You can take any person who has achieved notable success in any endeavor and look at their life, and you will find examples where they basically had to do something that seemed almost impossible, but they just went ahead and did it.
There are far too many examples of that.
Yeah, and we could just we could start throwing examples out and we talk for hours. And we can do it in the realm of strength training and throw out one example after another. It's a very, very, very common thing. And it's really interesting, if you think about it, a lot of strength training literature has always been about selling something, selling equipment, selling supplements, selling the idea that a particular person has all knowledge in the universe. And if you just go to their gym and train at their gym, they'll teach you everything. But basically, a lot of what is in the muscle magazines or the muscle media and always has been is talking about here's what you need to achieve bodybuilding success or weightlifting success, powerlifting success, whatever. And if you don't have this one thing, which of course you need to buy, if you don't have this one thing, you'll never get anywhere. And yet the fact of the matter is that all of these people that are successful, that have championship physical development, championship levels of strength, the vast majority of them got started with very modest equipment, very modest training quarters. And they had to learn these lessons of pushing themselves when it was hard to do so, getting through the hard times, if you will, the rough times, and learning to just go out and do it no matter what obstacles were in the way. And that probably had more to do with their success than anything else. And that's something that sometimes you see in the magazines, but often not. It doesn't sell a lot of equipment
Mhm.
to tell a story about how someone got started with a homemade barbell, for example.
Mhm.
But that's an interesting aspect. And I was thinking the other day, I was making a mental list of great champions in the history of the iron game who famously got started with a homemade barbell. And when you actually start writing that list, you can fill up a page very quickly if you know the history. It's like a whole lot of people. It was a very common thing. And other people got started lifting rocks,
Mhm.
lifting sandbags, lifting bags of grain, working a construction job, doing some kind of hard physical work with the specific intent, the specific purpose of building themselves up.
Mhm.
And again, you can just start that list and it becomes a very long list. It's a very common thing. And I would suggest that the reason it's common is that it reflects a psychological state, a mental approach to your training that is not only common among those who achieve strength training success, but is fundamental to the achievement of strength training success. In other words, if you achieve success, you have this no excuses mentality.
Mhm.
If you do not have a no excuses mentality, no matter what you do, what you eat, what supplements you take, where you train, what program you follow, you will not achieve success.
Mhm. I think if you look at what it took to even get a barbell in the first half of the 20th century, I mean, now we're spoiled because you can make a phone call or you can go to the mall or sporting goods store and you can get a barbell. It's something that would, at least in terms of the job at hand, would fill the need. Back then, there were none of this existed. There were no credit cards. There were no FedEx, no UPS. If you lived in the middle of nowhere, the likelihood that anyone in your town within 100 miles of you even lifted weights at all was pretty small. And so all of a sudden, just getting a barbell, which if you sent your money away to York or whatever it was back then, it would arrive on the train. And then, okay, you got 150, 200 pounds in a box. Now what? There were situations where people told me that they literally had carried it back to their house, or they put it on a mule or something, or cart. So it just getting to zero in many cases was a challenge in itself, was the challenge. And so I think there's kind of a self-selection there in terms of who was successful and who wasn't. I mean, any of the challenges that existed back then to just get started would turn most people away, and it would certainly turn most people away today. So I think that we're kind of deluded by the convenience that we enjoy in the modern situation relative to training. If it was different, if it was more difficult to get started, I think you would see a very different complexion in terms of the attitudes out there. But things are what they are, I think it also helps to just keep in mind, um, in a way, you want these challenges because the only way to get to where you want to go is to get over them, to get through them. And if you're really going to I mean, what you notice is that you see the same patterns over and over again. I mean, you talk about the two biggest excuses. Well, I don't have time and I don't have equipment. I can't get to the gym. Well, I remember seeing it was some kind of poll that was done at a health club down in Florida. It was the 30 years ago, back in the 80s. And they polled their members as to what were the factors that were going to kept them from working out on a regular basis. Well, it was I don't have time, and I just it's too far to drive to the gym or whatever. It's the exact same thing, and I think if you were to go back the last 100 years, they'd be the exact same excuses that people would report. And to me, it's gotten easier and easier every successive decade to for those excuses to not be valid. They're just not there. And we just talked about it earlier with the body weight training, and now the attitude that body weight training is something that it can be used as a tool to remedy some of those situations is more prevalent today than it's ever been in history. So you could get what you need, you could make what you need. I mean, the thing is, if you don't have a weight set, but you put some books in a pillowcase, and boom, you've got something that you can lift in a meaningful way. So to me, the attitude that I just don't have what I need is less about the equipment and the situation, and it's more about what's going on between your ears.
Yeah. One of the fascinating things is that when you look at people who have been truly successful in the strength training game and people who in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and older, 80s and beyond in some cases, are still training and still enormously stronger and more muscular and better developed than their peers. The one thing that sets them apart from all the rest is simply consistency and having done it over and over and over and over again without fail, without excuses, without finding reasons not to train, without accepting reasons not to train. No time, 10-minute workout. A little bit more time, 20-minute workout. Real long time to train, 30-minute workout. You can get a heck of a workout in 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. You can just absolutely do everything that you need to trigger gains in strength and muscle mass in 10, 20, or 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can have an equally result producing workout in 45 minutes or 60 or 75 if you have the time. But if you don't have, quote, don't have the time, you can at least get it done in 10 or 20 minutes.
You can at least do something, and
Absolutely.
and you'll feel better about yourself, and it'll get you to the next rung of the ladder.
Yeah. And talking about the next rung in the ladder. Okay, we're moving into December. And this is going to be posted in December. So people are going to have the December holiday season on their minds. Okay. And a lot of people are thinking, been training hard this year, did everything I needed to do. Now I'm tired. I'm just going to coast. I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to start again in January. What do you say to that kind of attitude? And is that something that you agree or disagree with?
I've always had my best workouts right about now, and that's still going on, going into my late 40s. There might be other reasons for that. There might be had to do with time off or snow or who knows what it is. I typically shorten up my workouts during the holiday season because things get busier, and maybe that has something to do with it. Um, but the other side of it is that there's always going to be a reason not to train. So you can bow to that or you can be aware of it and move past it. It's really up to you.
That's I think that's the bottom line and the fundamental message, I think, of this episode is it's up to you. It's your decision. Train or not train, train effectively or not so effectively. Do what you need to do, no matter what the excuses are or not. But it's all up to you.
I mean, isn't that also kind of the fundamental idea of adulthood is responsibility and doing things that you don't feel like doing? I mean, when it all boils down to it, that's what differentiates an adult from an adolescent who is wholly dependent on someone else creating their schedule and making decisions for them. So to me, what do we peddle in this whole grand scheme of things? To me, the idea here is that you and I, our brand of training is a grown-up version of physical training, where you're trying to keep in mind that responsibility and that self-sufficiency, and you're not saying, "Well, I'm only going to do what some influencer tells me to do, or what the people at the gym think I should be doing, or whatever the case is." Like I say, and we've talked about it before, and I've used this saying before, is that you're the one driving the bus here. And for a lot of people, they don't want to be in that situation. And maybe that's something to talk about some other time. But to me, if you're not the one making the decisions here, then what are we talking about? So that's where I stand, as just as a principle that I believe is a foundational of success for me, for anybody that wants to train.
And I would definitely agree. I had a timer on, and I think it's just about time to sign off now.
Yeah, I think we have
And
covered a lot of ground here.
a lot of ground, and we'll be back with episode 3 in the near future and cover more ground there.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Take care, John.
Yep, thank you, Brooks.